I'm Hannah from Advertising Council Australia. I'm just waiting for everyone to trickle in to the webinar. Hope you're all well. Hope you've all received your briefs and have read them multiple times and taken in all the detail. We've got over 200 people registered for this webinar tonight, so I think that's a lot of the entrants coming through. Let's give it a couple more minutes. Okay, I might get started. I'm Hannah. I'm National Head of Engagement at Advertising Council Australia. Some of you might know me quite well. Some of you will not. I have been working on the Cannes Young Lions competition since the beginning, and I'm really excited that we're finally alive and you've received briefs and we're really into the competition stretch now. So it's been a big couple of weeks. So I'm going to kick off. Initially, I'd just like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We would also like to acknowledge their culture of storytelling through art, dance, and music. And we pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Now, if you are not sure who Advertising Council Australia is, we're the peak body for Australia's leading agencies in the advertising industry. Our purpose is to foster the long-term prosperity of the industry and making advertising the most valued professional service in Australia. And you can see here, these are some of our members, all of our member agencies around Australia. And at the bottom, we also have the Commercial Producers Council, which is also part of ACA. So we have a really big network of creative agencies, PR agencies, production companies, social agencies, all sorts from around the country. It's a fantastic community. And you might not know sort of how wide our scope is, but ACA really does work to strengthen this community and industry in lots of different ways, celebrating creative impact through the awards and the Effies. For over 40 years, we've run awards school and ad school to educate and empower people and supercharge careers. And we also have our partnership with the Australian on Mondays, the Growth Agenda. And that's the focus there is on the power of creativity to drive business growth, which is really relevant to the Young Lions competition. Young Bloods is also part of ACA. I think we might have some committee members and chairs competing in the competition. So hello if you are part of the Young Bloods community. And of course, we are the official Cannes Lions reps in Australia, which is why you're all here with me today, as the Young Lions is a big part of our remit. So just to restate some of the key dates, the competition opened yesterday. We're having the webinar today. All entries are due by midnight on Sunday evening. On Sunday, March the 23rd, before it becomes Monday, it is deadline time. I will restate that at the end, that this is quite a hard deadline because this competition is about speed. So it's not really just something that we can give extensions to, as that really would not be fair. So please aim to have everything uploaded well before midnight on Sunday. But if you are absolutely down to the wire, the platform itself, Award Force, will close. So it will actually stop you from uploading anything at midnight, which kind of means that there's no choice but to get it in before. We also then very quickly move from entrance into online judging, and we have over 125 judges around Australia, all lined up to judge and score your entries online from mid next week. Then the executive juries will review those scores and decide on finalists. We're aiming to have 3 finalists per category. So 3 finalists by 5 categories. There should be 15 finalists announced on Friday, April 4. And then you'll be invited to present your work, the work that you submitted. You will be invited to present that live to the juries in Sydney on Friday, April 11th. That will be held at WPP in Barangaroo. Once the judges have chosen their winners, we will announce that on the same day, and then there'll be some fantastic opportunities for some more mentoring and skills building between April the 11th and when you land in France in the middle of June. And the festival starts on Monday, the 16th of June. Most Young Lions winners will be encouraged to arrive on the Sunday, the 15th. Industry support and sponsorship. So we're really thankful to have AANA, MFA, and IAB, all the industry bodies behind this competition. They've been supporting and helping us promote it. And we're also extremely grateful to Meta and Nine, who are sponsoring this year's Young Lions competition. We're so happy that they are part of the team, and I'm sure that they will be excited to work with the winners as well before heading to France. There's a question about 5 finalists in previous years. Why the reduction? We're running the competition for the first time. Advertising Council Australia, where we've decided that that is the right way to sort of structure it, and there's quite a lot of changes to how we've structured it to previous years. But yeah, 3 finalists is the plan, unless the scores are really too hard to split. How many finalists will present in Sydney? So the finalists, there'll be 3 finalists. All of them will present in Sydney. So if you're a finalist in the media, marketing, digital, film, or PR category, you're invited to present that in Sydney on the 11th. So there'll be 15 finalists, and I say that as in teams, teams of 2. Let's say that is 30 humans, 15 teams presenting in Sydney on the 11th of April. Budget fall within any particular categories. I'll let Saveful talk to that. It's an indicative budget for the whole campaign. You'll see when you enter your written submission, you'll see that there is 150 words or less for each section, and that's how Award Force is set up. No, there is no state finalists being decided. It's not a state-based competition. This is just everybody from around Australia doing their best, and we will not choose from states. It'll just be the best talent that we can possibly assemble to compete in France. And if you win, you'll be taken to France. The prize for the Young Lions is to go to France. Yes, that is the prize, of course. So you go to France, you get briefed on a whole new brief, and you have 24 hours to turn around your response. If you're in film, you get 48 hours. But yeah, you are then competing against the Young Lions winners from all over the world. And hopefully you will win for Australia. There is no second brief. No, this is your brief. You take this brief, you submit the work, and whoever we judge as the top 3 presents, and then the winners go to France. So this is it. You've got one brief to answer, and you do not need to incorporate industry partners. That would be in the brief. If you needed to incorporate them, it would be in the brief. I'm going to be that boring person who says, read the brief, read it again, and everything you need to know about mandatories is in the brief. The deliverables here, just to remind you, for marketing, media, and PR, it's a 10-slide deck that you PDF out, a digital presentation board, which an example of which is there, and a written submission, which has a word count. Digital comp, you don't need to do a 10-slide deck, but you do a digital presentation board like the one opposite. You can have 3 additional supporting images and a written submission. And the film comp is a 60-second film and a written submission. This is the Award Force platform. So this is where you will be submitting. Only registered and paid teams are eligible to upload entries into the awards platform. If you have not been emailed a brief and link to enter, you are not a registered entrant and cannot submit. So that's just basic hygiene factor. All entry and content and uploads must also be anonymous. Of course, you put your name into the system, of course, but you don't put your name on to the presentation. You don't put your name onto the digital images or the film, because we are, from the judge's perspective, it is an anonymous entry. They will have no idea who has actually submitted. Can we use AI? You can. You will be asked to declare if and how you used it when you enter. So you can use AI to help you. However, if the majority or the entire entry is generated using AI, we reserve the right to disqualify the entry from the competition. The usage of AI outside of image creation is permitted. Please ensure that you select yes when asked, was AI used in the creation of this work when you submit your entry. You'll then need to explain how it was used, and our jury will view this, but it does not have a bearing on the judging outcome. Can you use third-party content? So any images, music, and/or film in the entry must either be created by you or must not contain any third-party content without permission of the owner of the rights in the content for the competition purposes. And just a note on timing and extensions. So yeah, it's not a normal award show. Speed is a key criterion for success. In Cannes, as I mentioned, you only get 24 or 48 hours if you're in the film comp. So this is about people that can think fast and generate ideas very quickly. So Sunday night, midnight is the deadline, no exceptions. And online judging starts early next week. Now we will have time for questions, but just please, before you just pepper me with a million questions that I've already answered, for instance, will you be penalized for using AI? This is if you go into the Award Force platform, there's a link to it, you can go in, you can have a look. This is what you'll be asked to do, is declare if you've used it, how you've used it. Our jury, it will view it, but it does not have a bearing on the judging outcome. So please just follow the instructions in the brief and the email, and all will become clear. Now I'm going to introduce Saveful. Mike Shooter and Kim McDonnell are here from Saveful, so I'm going to invite them onto the screen, and they're going to tell us a little bit more about their awesome social enterprise and app, and hopefully give you a real sense of the brand, their ambition, and what they're going to, why they've set the brief in this way, because they're not actually judging your work, but they will absolutely be able to give the judges some advice on which solutions feel like they're on brand and on strategy. Welcome, Kim and Mike. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And
Thanks, Hannah.
yeah, we are both really excited to be here and just thrilled to be part of the Young Lions competition, and can't wait to see what creative genius comes out of this process. So very excited.
Yes, it's going to be a big few days.
Very
we just remind everybody what the brief, at its most basic, this is the objective on all of the briefs.
Absolutely. Our big goal and our big target by the end of 25 is to have at least 100,000 users. So we're currently sitting at about 32,000 users. So we've got some work to do for this year, but we are confident that we're going to get there.
Great. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the brand and the app?
Sure. So just a little bit of background very quickly. Saveful really came from the work that we've done for the last few years across Thankful for Farmers, working from farm gate to dinner plate. And we understood the huge challenge of food waste in this country, and particularly at a household level, where globally 61% of all food waste occurs within their home. And to put that into context, that's an area larger than the size of Victoria. Every single year in this country is used to grow food that we end up throwing in the rubbish bin. $36.6 billion Australian problem and a huge global problem as well, costing the average Aussie family about $3,000 a year. So based upon a lot of insights, we really dug in to understand what the behavior change we needed to overcome was in order to be able to get people to save more food at home. And the biggest insight that struck us immediately when we dug into that research was that most people don't think they waste very much food. In fact, when we even acknowledge that we waste food, we underestimate it by at least 50%. So there's a really good reason why the app is called Saveful and not Wasteful. We wanted to go out there with a positive message. We wanted to go out there with a message that was motivating and empowering. And we absolutely, as part of our brand guidelines and as part of our mission, we're determined to change the narrative around food waste in this country, because we know when we talk about waste, it's not motivating. It's not going to lead to long-term behavior change. And we want this to be positive and empowering, which is what Saveful really is all about. So the other insight that we got from a behavior perspective was, if we go out there and talk about climate, again, it's not going to resonate. There's a lot of climate fatigue. None of us think our individual actions at home is going to make a difference in the fight against climate change. And research out of the UK, which seems like such a no-brainer and so incredibly obvious, is that the best way to get people to save food at home is to help them to use more of what they already have in their fridge, freezer, and pantry. So digging deep into that research, what we understood was that recipe fatigue is real. We only look at recipes about 3 times a month when we have the mental capacity to do so. And the biggest pain in the neck question that we all spend a minimum of 20 minutes a day thinking about is, what's for dinner tonight? So armed with those insights, we said, how can we help address some of those big challenges? And in the process, help people to save and use more of what they already have in their fridge, freezer, and pantry. So we launched Saveful in November 2023. So we're about 16 months old, with the support of multiple levels of government, but also multiple brand and corporate partners as well. And we really flipped the recipe rulebook on its head. And rather than starting with the end meal, we start with individual ingredients. Now, we know that functionality within Saveful, where you can put in ingredients that you have in your fridge, freezer, or pantry, and then we present meals to you, is not a unique feature. You can do it with ChatGPT, you can do it with Google and a whole bunch of other tools. What makes Saveful unique is the fact that all of our recipes, number one, are chef created. But when you then go to the recipe, you have the ability to totally personalize it based upon your personal tastes or what you have at home. And that is absolutely unique. There's no other tool that allows you to do that. And I'm sure everyone has downloaded the app and had a bit of a play around with it and gone in to see that level of functionality and that personality, that personalization that you're able to do.
Yeah, it's an amazing app. And if you haven't downloaded it yet and had a look at it, like once you really start playing around, you'll see there's layers and layers of intelligence in that app, which is very different to just give me a recipe that has X, Y, and Z in it.
Absolutely. It's also important to note we won some awards already from a user experience. We're constantly using that data, understanding the user experience and refining it to make sure that it's always of the best possible standard for our users. I think we're at version 300 and something of the app already, because we're always looking at how we can improve that experience.
Fantastic. Should we talk a little bit about some of the insights that you've used to kind of build the product, but I think are also very much at the heart of the briefs? So a lot of these data points are in the briefs that the entrants have got.
Definitely. So one of the big things we know, 80% of Australian families, actually 83% of Australian families now, are struggling with the cost of living crisis. Yet 70% of all of the food that we put in our rubbish bins is still perfectly edible. So if we can help Australian families to save that food and to use that food, we're going to address the cost of living crisis as well as the food waste crisis across Australia and across the globe. We know that 50% struggle to prioritise sustainable food choices, but they have an appetite, no pun intended, to do so, with 70% of people wanting to. 1 in 5 shopping bags, as I mentioned earlier, that we buy ends up in the rubbish bin, costing the average Aussie family anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 every year, which is just staggering when you consider the cost of living crisis that we're all facing at the moment as well. From a business perspective, and really Saveful, a key point as well, Saveful is free for every single Australian family, and we made that commitment to give it free to Australians because we wanted it to be accessible to absolutely everyone. And the way that we are able to do that is because we're able to partner with incredible Australian and iconic Australian as well as global brands who are supporting Saveful across every category, not just across food service categories or food manufacturing, but that collaborative network is one of the things that we're most proud of with Saveful. But that value exchange that we're then able to offer to our business partners and our corporate partners is the data that we're able to capture. So we, again, I'm sure everyone's already downloaded and signed on to Saveful. You would have noticed 4 key questions that are being asked when you sign on. So we have a whole lot of data right down to suburb and postcode level. So we're able to provide to our partners some really amazing data insights at key moments of truth, as well as a communication channel to reach those people at key moments of truth in their home when they're cooking a meal. What is unique about Saveful? I've mentioned this already, but the fact that all of our flexible recipes are created by chefs from around Australia, so we know they're going to taste good, unlike the Chat GPTs or the Googles, and that ability to make it flexible and that ingredient substitution. There's a whole lot of data, there's a whole lot of algorithms that sit behind that. As you can appreciate, it wasn't an easy build. It took a long time to build, but I think there's over 100 different meals within Saveful, but from those 100 different meals, you can create literally hundreds of thousands of different meals because of that flexibility. The other thing that makes Saveful unique is our integration with the Qantas Frequent Flyer program. So we're demonstrating how we can use rewards programs to actually drive sustainable action and behavior change. And again, that integration into Qantas was not an easy thing to do, an API tech integration, but basically people can come into Saveful, enter their Qantas Frequent Flyer number, it's immediate, and then you can start earning additional Qantas points, as well as the exclusive Greenleaf tier when you complete certain actions within Saveful. As I mentioned earlier, brands can engage with consumers in their kitchen. There's opportunities for our partners to have sponsored content throughout the entire process of Saveful, as well as product placement in some of the images. And just as importantly with Saveful, we're big data nerds. We don't do anything unless you can measure it. So we make sure that within Saveful, everything that you do needs to be able to be measurable. So users can actually track how much food they're saving in both kilograms as well as in dollars, because we know if you can see your impact, it's likely to be more motivational. You want to save more money or you want to save more food. But what that also means is, as I mentioned earlier, we got all that data, we can provide that value exchange back to our corporate partners so they can understand at a postcode level what Australians are eating at any given time, what ingredients they're searching for. We can break that down by category of food types. So it really is that mouthful of the food journey from fridge to fork that we're able to capture, which nobody else can capture. So it's really insightful. Obviously, Saveful is all about helping Australian families to save more food, to save money, and to save time. And it's about changing that narrative so it's better for the planet as well as better for our back pockets.
That's right. And I think, well, there's a lot of questions coming in. And I do urge everyone that is asking questions. A lot of the questions that are coming in are in the brief. So please read the brief again. And someone's just saying, considering there's a sense of climate fatigue, does this mean the messaging should not be centered around the impact individuals can make? Yes, that is exactly what Kim's saying, is that this is about saving food, saving money, cost of living crisis. The real motivator for people is actually about how can I save money, make life easier, and create great meals. And it's almost, yes, the secondary benefit is here that we are also making incredible impact on a sustainability problem, but that is not the lead message, right, Kim?
Absolutely, Hannah. And this all comes from our research. You know, we know that if we ask 10 people in a room, do you want to save the planet and do you want to act sustainably and are you interested in climate change, we're all going to stick up our hand. But if it impacts our back pocket, we're less likely to want to do that. Or if it's going to take us longer and be more inconvenient, again. So we know the prime motivator to get people to take action and for behavior change has to be a personal benefit to them. And with this current cost of living crisis, it's all about how can we help you save money? How can we make your life easier, make it more convenient, and save you time as well? Take away that pain in the neck question of what's for dinner tonight, because all you have to do is plug it into Saveful and we'll give you all of the options of what you can have for dinner tonight.
That's right. We're never going to get that level of users if we're just appealing to really passionate climate activists to do something. We are trying to actually appeal to a very ordinary, busy Australian who has got other things to think about, primarily, yeah, what's for dinner tonight and how can I save some money?
Absolutely. And if we're going to see the change, the type of change, the level of change and the impact that's needed to address some of these big global challenges, we need everyone to be doing it, not just an elite few. So the messaging, don't talk about climate change. Do not mention the word waste, because Saveful is all about redefining that narrative as well. We just know it's not motivating and it's just not going to resonate with anybody. So yeah, don't show us the word waste anywhere. It's way too negative.
There you go, everyone. We have said that multiple times in the brief, by the way, but I think, you know, if that's something that you can just take away from this conversation is that we really are appealing to the, let's face it, the somewhat more selfish side of humans. You know, it's not the altruistic side that we're appealing to here. But isn't it great that this is tackling a very big problem, but with a very different kind of approach? If you have downloaded the app, you will see some of these fantastic functionality and features of the product. But I think I've seen other questions about, you know, well, yeah, isn't it just a recipe app? Well, no, not really. Once you start seeing all of this functionality, it makes it almost unrecognizable from a recipe app, I'd say.
Totally. And in terms of, you know, recipes are rigid. And we know that often when you go to a recipe, you have to go out and buy more stuff just to make stuff. So Saveful it's a tool to enable you to figure out what you're going to have for dinner tonight. But unlike traditional recipes, you're telling the tool or you're telling the app exactly what you've got. And from that, we're going to make the meal for you. So we flipped the recipe rulebook completely on its head, and you're not starting with the end product. So no, it's so much more than just a recipe app.
Agree. So there are here also, we've talked about there are benefits for consumers, and I'm going to say, look, mostly the briefs that the entrants have, they're mostly consumer focused. Like a lot of, no one's got a strict B2B kind of opportunity, but I think it is really nice to understand the business audience here, because they're humans too, and maybe in your solution there might be an idea that brings the business audience into the solution in a way that will help to you know, build awareness at scale.
Definitely. And all of our partners, and we're partnering with amazing brands, as I mentioned, like, you know, Bega, Nestle, Simplot, Goodman Fielder, Rabobank, Qantas. But brands like Gumtree are coming into the partnership with Saveful, and they have 6 million unique visitors on their platform every single month. So we're able to use that platform as a marketing channel. And the beauty of Saveful is that, and one of the things we are proudest of is this collaborative network that we have been able to build of organizations and brands across multiple different industries who are helping us to help Australians to save. Whether that's saving money, saving food, or saving time, they're all committed to helping Australians to save, which means we can partner with a whole range of different organizations. And I've just seen a question as well about, again, AI tools like ChatGPT can currently suggest dishes. As I said, absolutely. That is not the unique feature of Saveful. The unique feature of Saveful is the level of flexibility when you are able to substitute ingredients based upon your personal preferences or what you have at home.
That's right. And I think, as you say, like a lot of people, once you play around with the app, you'll see this for yourself. If something's not specifically called out in the brief, then you don't need to worry about it. Like, we haven't left out key information in the brief just to like make you try and find it out. Everything that's in the brief will give you the information you need to respond. There's not one right answer that we're looking for. It's about you coming up with what you think is a great way of improving the awareness of the app, increasing the propensity of people to download it. And that is the task that we've given you. It's quite broad. We've given you some ideas of channels. We've given you some ideas of even potentially sort of various tactics, but nothing is prescriptive. So this is the best brief ever, right? You are not being given a media plan and said, this is what you have to give us in these specs. We are not giving you a sort of a producer that's going to tell you that 8 of your 10 ads are not going to be possible. We're not actually saying there is one singular insight that you must use. There's no one singular call to action. We're giving you lots and lots of jumping off points and lots of great inspiration, but you just need to sort of release yourself from the idea that, you know, there's this one very secret box that we're hoping that you fill. This is about how you bring your strategic and creative brains to a really big, meaty problem, but with a great product and a great brand to use in that response. I think we've probably talked a little bit to this one already. But yeah, I think some people have asked about sort of what is the biggest barrier for people to download Saveful and use it. And we've said this in the brief, it's, you know, a small social enterprise that's only been going for 16 months. It's absolutely awareness of the app. Once you're aware of it, you're going to love it.
And a really great example of that, Hannah, is we had the opportunity to be on Sunrise in January of this year. And during that 4-minute segment, within an hour or two of that, we had 2,000 new users, or more than 2,000 new users. So we know when people know about it, they absolutely want it. And we certainly know with testimonials from our users as well, it's, oh my God, this tool has changed my life. Or, you know, one mum up in Queensland with 5 kids, every week before she does her grocery shopping or makes her list, she plugs in what she's already got at home. One week she was able to generate 5 additional meals and she saved about $86 that week on her groceries. So we've got lots of amazing testimonials like that. And we know awareness has been the biggest challenge because the app has not been cheap to build. We've been very lucky that a lot of our brand partners have supported us, not just with sponsorship dollars, but they're pushing it out across their channels as well in marketing channels and promoting it. And that's how we haven't had a dedicated marketing budget previously. So we are really excited to see what everyone's going to come up with.
Yes. And, you know, as we've said, Mike and Kim aren't actually on the executive juries. We've got over 125 people judging your work in round 1 and executive juries of about 5 to 8 making the decision on finalists and ultimately on the winners. So Mike and Kim aren't here going, oh, you know, let's pick the idea that we know that we can execute next week. That's not what the competition is. I mean, I'm sure Mike and Kim will probably go, this is amazing what you've presented, and maybe there will be an opportunity for them to work with some of you if there is something there. But just to restate to everyone that this is about finding the best talent to compete in Cannes in June. It is not about who can come up with the sort of most practical solution for Saveful to execute in the next 2 months based on their exact product roadmap and partnership needs. So again, I'm just sort of encouraging you to sort of release yourself from the fact that this is not a client briefing you and a client then judging which idea is right. This is a client briefing you, but then it is an incredible panel of jurors who's going to decide what the best, most creative, most interesting, most impactful idea is. And that will be the ones that will be invited to present in person. There has been some questions about the data insights. Did you want to just sort of restate these again, just so people understand that we do have this data, but again, we're not really expecting people to have this level of data in their response, but it's a good thing to have in the back of your head.
Yeah, sure. So we know suburbs and postcodes where people live. We know household composition, so how many kids versus number of adults in any given house. We know if any household has any dietary requirements and what those dietary requirements actually are. And we also know their preferred day of the week that they do their meal planning and shopping. So that's sort of the data that we collect as people sign on to the app. We then have people's user behavior data on top of that. So we know what ingredients people are searching for, what meals people are searching for, but then we overlay that with what's actually being made and what ingredients are actually being used as well. So as an example, we can tell you right now that the most commonly searched proteins of Saveful users across Australia are beef mince, chicken breast and eggs, which is not a surprise with the cost of living crisis. Carrots are always the #1 ingredient from a vegetable perspective that's being searched for. They're always cheap and you always usually have to buy them in a big bag. So everyone has some floppy carrots usually sitting in their fridge at the back of their crisper somewhere. But we can then break that down by meal type. So is a 2-adult, 2-kid household eating differently to a single adult household or a single parent household with 2 kids? So we know exactly what people are eating in terms of their food as well as the ingredients. So we have all of that data. And then obviously with our partners, we can also provide information and opportunities for them to have that direct one-to-one communication. So as an example, if a user is using a lot of rice products or cooking a lot of rice dishes, Sunrise being one of our partners, we could tailor them a very specific message about Sunrise products through in-app notifications, push notifications and EDMs as well. So we provide to all of our partners as part of the sponsorship agreement and that value exchange quarterly impact reports to take them through all of that information. We do have multiple revenue streams at the moment. It's predominantly corporate partnerships. One of the other things we have is, as well as the quarterly impact behavior reporting, we've had over 30,000 weekly surveys completed on the app. That's the largest national survey that's ever been completed in this country on household food consumption behavior. And we're working with Griffith University to publish the first ever food savings report. Ultimately, we're looking at, particularly when we roll out into other countries and scale Saveful a premium subscription model for those other countries. In Australia, it will remain free. And then obviously the more users that Saveful gets, it becomes its own media channel in its own right. And we can look at advertising and retargeting.
And I think someone has answered this, but so you're looking to get 100,000 new users by the end of 2025 or 100,000 users total by the end of 2025?
New users.
Ideally new users.
Yeah,
ideally new. So yeah, we're looking at, this brief is how do we, in the next 9 months, get 100,000 people to download the app? And is that how we classify users?
Yes.
Yeah, ideally download and be active users, but we'll take downloads if
take downloads,
and then we can work on making them active. Yeah,
right.
This is talking about behavior change, and we know that behavior change is a function of both motivation and ease. And when we first looked and launched Saveful back in November 2023. We launched with the positioning of unleashing my food's full potential. So really, again, changing the narrative. We're not talking about food waste because we know it's not motivation and it's not providing a solution. Don't tell me there's a problem if you can't give me a solution. And Saveful is absolutely giving the solution and not talking about the problem in a negative way. And in terms of ease, that ability to be able to make every single recipe flexible really answers that motivation and ease sort of equation, if you like. Our positioning in 2025 is really evolving that unleashing my food's full potential to Saveful is a fridge full of recipes, helping you to use ingredients that you already have to make meals that you're going to love. And, you know, so often at the end of a busy day, our fridge could be completely full, but we open it up and it's full, but we still have no clue what we want to cook for dinner tonight because it's that pain in the neck question of what am I going to cook? So with Saveful, you don't have to think about it. We are educating and showing people that it's not a fridge full of ingredients, but what you've got in there are thousands upon thousands of different recipes that you can make. So it's a fridge full of recipes, turning ingredients you have into meals you love.
Fantastic. And that's very clear on the brief, so everyone can see that that's really the positioning. A fridge full of recipes is where we're heading with the positioning of the brand. And we're also going to give you a couple of examples of some marketing and activations and activities that are on the calendar this year, just to give you some flavor of how Saveful's kind of showing up and the kind of ideas that have resonated. And I think you can see how creative, flexible, fun. There's very physical, real life things. There's quite sort of data driven. There's competition mechanics. There's all sorts of things that you could play with. But tell us about these three, just as an example.
Yeah, thank you. So these three activities we have got planned for 2025. One of them is working with our partner, Gumtree, who are going to source secondhand fridges off their platform for us. And we've also worked with a network of artists from across Australia who have submitted digital files of their artwork to us. And we're going to wrap these dodgy old looking fridges with these beautiful pieces of artwork with vinyl wraps, just to demonstrate how you can take anything and turn it into something beautiful, which is basically what Saveful is all about. Take those floppy carrots or that limp celery or that wrinkled capsicum at the back of your crisper, and we'll show you how to turn it into something delicious and a delicious meal. These fridges, we're in conversations with Westfield shopping centres, and they're just getting back to us, but we're looking at having them in Westfield, having between 6 and 10 fridges in every Westfield shopping centre from Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and South Australia as an activation. To visually, they're going to be striking. People are going to stop and wonder what they're all about. When they open the fridges will be full of all of our partners' products. There will be some perspex there, so people won't be able to take the product. But to be eligible to win all of the contents of the fridge, you have to download Saveful and sign up, and then you'll be eligible to win. Once the activation is over, those fridges are then going to be donated to local community groups within the vicinity of those Westfield shopping centres who may have a need for a fridge. So a women's refuge centre or a youth centre. So again, it's a complete sustainable circular economy activation. Nothing is going to waste, and those fridges are being repurposed to really demonstrate what Saveful is all about. And you can see just a very small example there of some of the amazing artwork from artists all across Australia that we've collected. The other thing, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, we have had more than 30,000 weekly surveys completed, which is the largest ever national survey to understand household behaviour. Of that last mouthful of food from fridge to fork, and working with Griffith University, we'll be launching Australia's first food savings report. There's been lots of research previously. There's lots of demographics and profiling of what a food waster looks like. but no one has any clue what a food saver looks like. And as part of this continuing to change the narrative, to get rid of that word waste and the negativity, where we will be launching that first food saving report in conjunction with Griffith University, Rabobank, and several of our other partners are sponsoring this report as well. And there'll be a lot of enthusiasm and press and PR around that report as well, because we'll also use third-party data to really bring this report to life, to understand things like, if somebody is a food saver, are they also more likely to be passionate about circular economy and separate their organic and their plastic waste at a household level, all of that sort of stuff.
Really interesting.
And last September, we launched our first Saveful September, which was a huge success, and all of our partners really got behind it. And we saw a huge influx of new users just because of the immediate media attention, etc. This Saveful September, which we're excited about, we're going to put a call out to find Australia's inaugural leftover legend. This is the person who can take half a tin of chickpeas and a couple of floppy carrots and some celery and a bit of rice and turn it into the best falafel you've ever had, or make a bolognese out of nothing. They're the fridge foragers or the pantry pickers. And we're going to run a competition to find Australia's leftover legend with Matt Moran. He's an amazing partner and ambassador for Saveful. Will then announce the state winner. We'll bring all of those state winners together in the national competition as well, and they'll win a $10,000 holiday or $10,000 worth of groceries, plus lots of other things. So, you know, Saveful's tone of voice is all about having a little bit of fun. We like a bit of humor. We love a food pun every now and then. We try not to take ourselves too seriously. So we think finding Australia's leftover legend as part of Saveful September this year is going to be lots of fun.
All right. So yes, that's kind of all the context. But reminder that we are trying to focus on this objective, and we're giving you lots of freedom as to how you do it, how you decide the best way to get those 100,000 new users downloading the app by the end of 2025. We've given you some suggestions of channels. We've given you some pretty good idea of audience demographics. It's not singular, it's not limiting. We've also given you an indication of a marketing budget. And Kim and Mike, I mean, we've said, you know, $250,000 was kind of what the dollar amount that we put down. And of course, no one's actually going to cost up anybody's ideas and decide that they're too expensive. But I think, would you agree that the ideas should be not limited by the budget? However, remember who the client is. So if something you present is only executable by the world's biggest food company, then you haven't really understood the brand, the social enterprise, the size of the platform, and the reach, because millions and millions and millions of dollars will probably get you 100,000 users without too much trouble, I would say.
Definitely. And, you know, we love big ideas as much as anybody else, but we want big ideas that work, and, you know, big ideas that are efficient and can be really smart as well.
That's right. It's about smart ideas, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know that, Mike, you've been answering a lot of questions, and there have been a lot of questions coming through. We're not going to be able to answer all of them. But I've already answered the question about third-party music and images, which can't be used in the responses because
probably
right.
You know, one question that might be worth answering is the one about main competitors.
Oh yeah.
And I think what's interesting is that, you know, if we start with users or consumers who don't believe they waste anything, then the competition probably is other recipe apps, because they, you know, they could be cooking. If we start with them accepting that they do waste something, then it could be food waste calculators. But I suppose when we're focusing on helping people to save money, save food, and so on, then what we're trying to do is almost sort of take ourselves out of the competitor set. And given the cost of living crisis, if we can help people save money, then that's an incredibly powerful positioning.
Yes.
I suppose the other thing with competitors, and I mentioned it with one of the questions, is probably just apathy. You know, I get home on a Thursday night, I open my fridge and I just go, no, Uber Eats. And I don't know what to cook because I've got this random group of things in my fridge or freezer or pantry, and I just don't know what to cook. So I suppose again, a competitor is just, probably not knowing about Saveful and just the apathy of I'll just order Uber Eats.
That's right.
Rather than I'll just take those ingredients, I'll put them into the app and there it is. There's the meal I can cook.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, isn't it? Because on one hand, there is no competitor because we're not in an industry vertical of food saving apps. But we've definitely got a human behavioral barrier. And I think that's a good call. You know, if you had to sort of think about what's the opposite to Saveful, it probably is Uber Eats, because we're just sort of making no effort, and it's that low effort mentality. Uber Eats is there, it services that problem so efficiently, but the food in the fridge is not being used.
And interestingly, no one goes shopping to buy food, which 1 in 5 shopping bags are bought that then get put in the bin. So none of us go shopping to buy food to put in the bin.
Yeah, that's right. We all would like to use up what we've spent our hard-earned cash buying rather than putting it in the bin and then buying it again only to just not use it again. And I think knowing that you can personalize a recipe and actually go, yeah, I want to make bolognese, but I don't have any carrots, but I do have an eggplant. And it's like, yeah, no problem. We can make it with eggplant. Like,
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And, on Saveful, you can make a chocolate cake without eggs because you put in 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise and that's equivalent to 1 egg.
Yeah, it's like some kind of genius sort of chef in your pocket, which we've said. And I think, didn't Matt Moran worry that you're putting him out of a job?
So many people have said it's like having a chef in my back pocket. That's exactly what Saveful is. And it's showing people how to cook intuitively, which is absolutely how chefs think. Yeah.
And I think people are saying, are you looking for us to bring additional insights about food wastage to the table, or more so to use the insights and solutions you already have to innovate as a way of driving app downloads? I'm going to say, like, from an efficiency perspective and from what this competition is about, we're not really looking to you to go out and run some lightweight qual and quant research over the next 4 days. We've tried to give you, and I think Saveful, I've got so much great insight and data from their own research. You don't need to go out and do it again.
No.
But yeah, I mean, like, you might want to just piece some things together. You might want to look at culture. You might want to look at food trends, but we're not really looking for you to go out and to try and tell Mike and Kim what's the problem with Australian consumers who are, struggling to save money. We know that already. So save your time.
We have an abundance of that research, and we spent 3 years understanding consumer behavior and the barriers we needed to overcome in order to be able to create Saveful in the first place. So that research exists in abundance. We don't need any more validation.
I think we've answered about climate fatigue. We've answered competitors. I mean, someone's asking about Qantas partnership and things. I don't think, do you want to talk any more about the Qantas partnership? Is that going to be a key to getting 100,000 new users?
So Qantas certainly are promoting Saveful to their frequent flyer base, on behalf of Saveful, and you do earn additional Qantas points. They're amazing partners and have been very generous. We've had opportunities to be in flight entertainment with them, and we're looking at additional opportunities with digital content that we're creating. We're also with the fridges and the fridge activation, talking to Qantas about having those fridges in Qantas lounges as well. So they're a great great partner, and we take they were involved heavily last year in Saveful September. And they created their own community within Saveful, because that's another feature. You can create communities, and they had their staff community, and they offered a prize to their staff member who had saved the most amount of food at the end of September. So they're really actively involved, as are all of our partners. So we are very fortunate. And Matt Moran is also incredibly passionate about this. He's a great partner. He's a 4th generation farmer. He's obviously a celebrity chef and owns multiple restaurants, and he is always available when we ask him to be available. So he's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, so I think Matt, just on that point with Matt, he's come up a couple of times. Yes, we can use Matt in execution of ideas, but if you're thinking about using him, don't build the entire idea around him.
Yeah.
Yes. He's got another job, I think. Yeah.
Just a few. Yeah.
Well, yes.
I'm just seeing, is there anything else that you think?
There's a question there about measurement. Hopefully we've answered that with all of the data that we're collecting and all the measurement that we're able to do.
How much influence does design have on the judging criteria? I mean, none of the judging criteria sort of say how well designed was the slide. So I'm going to say very low. The judging criteria is about the thinking, the understanding, the impact, the use of channels. So if we haven't written down how well designed is the slide, then it's not going to be scored in the back end of the judging. The criteria in your brief will be the criteria that the judges are looking at when they're scoring your entries.
There's a question there about flybys and everyday rewards. We are not yet partnering with a retailer, i.e. Coles or Woolies. We'd be very open to having that conversation with them, but similar to how we have integrated with Qantas rewards program, absolutely we could integrate with flybys and everyday rewards if Coles and Woolies were willing.
What have you spent money on to acquire members that hasn't worked and was a flop?
We really haven't had that much money to be inefficient with it, to be honest with you. And but certainly some of our partners have, as I mentioned, been great supporters, and they have reached out to influencers on our behalf, and we have done some influencer marketing. Different influencers had different levels of success. Perhaps the one influencer that was that springs to mind that was hugely successful, when she positioned it on her social media, it was really, she's, you know, the mum with the kids juggling lots of things, pain in the ass question, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? I know I'm just going to, you know, open the fridge, there's nothing in there, what can I make? And she didn't have the most amount of users out of all the influencers, but she definitely got the most amount of engagement with Saveful just because of the way she positioned it.
Yeah,
and really understood that those consumer insights and behavior.
That's right. And that's the challenge for Young Lions, is to put yourself into this brief, and the better that you can understand it and connect with the audiences. And the audiences are, it's not like we're only talking to mums. We've given you some various different opportunities there to think about, you know, young people who are adulting for the first time, older people that are on fixed incomes. Like, there are different ways that you can to jump into this. So, you know, be a little bit more sort of open around who you might feature, or who you might, you know, maybe you might have something that crosses over various audiences.
Well, and a number of questions have been around audience as well. It's whatever you believe is going to answer the brief within the budget. So if you think that we should, you know, go far more pointy and look at one single segment and really maximize the opportunity with them, go for it. If you think we should spread thinner across a broader set of audiences, go for it.
Yeah, agree. I think that's a good way of thinking about it.
Somebody asked about the origins of the name Saveful. As I explained, with our big focus on changing the narrative, there's a very solid reason why it's called Saveful and not Wasteful. And we wanted a name as well. You know, Saveful gives us the opportunity to talk about, you know, saving food, saving money, saving time. And as I mentioned, what that has enabled us to do is to partner with a number of different partners across various different industries, not just food manufacturing industry as well. So we wanted it to be generic enough.
And trademarkable.
And trademarkable, yeah.
Right. Well, we've run out of time. I mean, there are a lot of questions there, but I believe that a lot of the answers are in the brief, and a lot of them are not, they're not going to be deal breakers. And I think in terms of execution, and you say a 10 slide deck, can we do 8? I'd suggest you stick to the 10 that we put in the brief, and that's what they asked for in Cannes. So I'd be like, yeah, why don't we just do 10?
Bigger word.
Yeah, just you go for like where you can. Exactly what's written down will be a very good rule of thumb. And the 3 supporting images for digital, they are optional. You can add in a few more. Maybe it's about how you give some more kind of context to the platforms that you're using, or some mock-ups or so on. But again, don't feel like there is a very firm requirement or specification that you need to meet, because the supporting images are kind of there to help you, not help us. The presentation board is the key thing. A lot of the people with the presentation board, it's a kind of a mashup of it's essentially the written submission and some of the slide deck kind of put together into one A3 board. It's a really good exercise to be able to test that your thinking actually is simple and easily understood. There's a lot of examples of them on the Cannes Lions the work section, and you can scroll down to the Young Lions competition and you can see loads of those winners and finalists from the French competition. And I think if you just Google Young Lions Winners Australia, you'll actually see some examples of those digital presentation boards from years gone by as well, just on B&T. So I think we're going to wrap up now. Hopefully everybody feels that they've got a really good brand. Yep, go. Mike?
Hannah, sorry. A number of questions are around the number of things within the app and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to say that at the moment there's probably over 130 recipes, but interestingly, people don't start with the recipe, people start with ingredients. So you can put, I think there's like 490 different ingredients you can put in, yeah, and you can create recipes from them. So that's the first point. The second point is that because you have the flexible nature of swapping ingredients in and out when you get the flexible recipe, you have tens of thousands of different variations within the app. And the third thing is that we are adding probably between 10 and 15 nature of swapping things in and out, 15 flexible recipes a month, are making, hundreds, if not thousands more variations as well, depending upon what ingredient you put in.
We're also adding digital content.
Yep.
So there will be video content within the app by the end of this month. So if you don't want to just look at the picture, you'll be able to see a chef in the Saveful kitchen actually whipping that meal up and showing you the thousands of variations and substitutes you can put in. So that digital content will be live by the end of the month.
So it's
amazing.
Constantly growing.
Yeah, it's always evolving, this app. It just keeps getting more and more layers to it. All right, thank you so much for that. It's been quite an intense hour of power. Hopefully everybody feels very well informed and that they kind of understand the DNA of the brand, the spirit of the brand, the ambition of these 2 incredible founders. And yeah, if you've got a few gaps in your total knowledge, don't worry. We're not testing you on what you can find out. Everything that you need is in the brief. And there's a link also to Saveful's brand guidelines. There's fonts, there's images you can use. There's a little PDF sort of background explainer in the link as well. So all of that is there for you to dive into if you want to.
And to have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun, exactly. Push yourself, think, you know, with that sort of 100,000 new users in mind, and it'll encourage you to sort of go big. But yeah, your client is a social enterprise. It is not sort of Rabobank or McDonald's, but you can see there's a lot of ambition. So we really look forward to seeing what you come up with. And we will be around to answer some questions, hopefully not the ones that we've just gone through tonight. But yeah, if you need some very specific help, you can email canlyons@adcouncil.org.au. Thank you very much, Kim and Mike.
Thank you.
guys.
Good luck.
Fun. Good luck.
See you. Bye.
See you.